Okay, got it. Well, thanks everyone for inviting me to come and join you today. So as I read today's gospel passage on the Syrophoenician woman, I found myself struggling because in it, Jesus seems so harsh, so rude towards this woman. She has come and fallen at his feet and begged him to heal her demon-possessed daughter. And yet he responds, "Let the children be fed first, for it is not fair to take the children's food and to feed it to the dogs." Is Jesus honestly calling this woman a dog? And having just, prior to this, he's just fed 5,000 Israelites from a few loaves of bread. Is he now saying he can't spare any miracles for this Syrophoenician, that's a Gentile woman? Because that seems to be what he's saying. A dog was an insulting way the Jews referred to the Gentiles at the time. They were unclean and unworthy, unlike the children, the Israelites who were part of God's family and considered themselves worthy of this blessing. But does Jesus agree with that? It's not what we expect from Jesus, is it? And yet this woman seems to accept his answer. She accepts that title for herself and even pushes the parable a bit further. Listen to her response. "Sir, even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." Has she heard about this miraculous feeding of the 5,000 and the 12 baskets of crumbs left over, and saying she's happy just to have those leftovers? Does she have no self-respect? But then I stopped to consider how the great reformer Thomas Cranmer uses the interaction between this woman and Jesus in the prayer of humble access that we say together before communion in the Anglican prayer book. It includes these words, and here's where I'll share that bit of the screen. And it says, "We do not presume to come to your table, merciful Lord, trusting in our own righteousness, but in your manifold and great mercies. We are not worthy so much as to gather up the crumbs under your table." Guess what? I shared the wrong screen. I shared the second half. I don't know why that's gone there. I'm sorry. I will come back to that. Let's see if we can get the pictures in a minute. So we are not worthy. Sorry. We are not worthy so much as to gather up the crumbs under your table. As I thought about this, I realized Cranmer actually held the interpretive key to what I was struggling with. He's taking on this woman's words to all of us and saying that we are like that woman and unworthy of the blessings of God. And I realized then that the reason I was struggling to understand the passage was because of my pride. I like to think that I am worthy, that there is something in me that makes me worthy of God's love, that this woman was equally deserving of the same blessing as the 5,000 Israelites. And I also realized that I often have too small a view of Jesus and his divinity. Now, I'm wondering if any of you have ever had afternoon tea at Buckingham Palace. And here's where I'm going to just have to close your eyes for a second. There we are. Back to the beginning of the slides. Are you guys still seeing those slides? Whoops, have I lost you? Uh-oh. Have I lost you?
We're still here, Michelle, but you'll have to screen share again. So same buttons as last time.
Sorry. That one. Share. Did I not screen share that before either? I'm sorry. Is it there? There we go. Great. So I wonder if you've ever had afternoon tea at Buckingham Palace or know someone who has. I've had a couple of friends who've had that privilege over the years. They've been sent their gold embossed invitations. Security checks have been done into their backgrounds. They've bought special outfits, like you can see on this screen, with hats and coattails. And they've had the pleasure of being allowed into the gardens of the palace. Not the palace itself, just the gardens, where they've eaten an abundance of beautiful mini tea cakes on a special plate that holds both your teacup and your food, so that you don't have to do that two-handed juggle thing while you're standing. And all of that so that they can stand in a long queue as the Queen walks down, says a quick hello and moves on to the next person. And that is a huge honour. Your 30 seconds hello with the Queen after you have proven yourself worthy. I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. So there's no ducking in the side gate in your jeans and your t-shirt to say a quick g'day to Lizzie. There's no bowling up to Back Palace to knock on the door and demanding to see her Madge. A lavish afternoon tea with the Queen is seen to be a special privilege for those deemed worthy because she's the Queen. I think our problem sometimes is that we have too high a view of ourselves and too low a view of Jesus. See, even though the Queen is just another human being with no actual divinity, we don't feel worthy to just bowl into her presence and demand she feeds us from the abundance of tea cakes at her table. Jesus was fully human, but he was also fully divine. That's how he was able to do these two miracles, to heal the woman's demon-possessed daughter and to make the deaf man able to hear. That makes him even greater than the Queen, and us even less worthy in that sense to just stride into his presence and demand things from him. Now, I don't only think this because of Cranmer's prayer, but also because of what's happening in Mark's gospel in the verses around this. So between the feeding of the 5,000 Israelites and this encounter with the Gentile woman, Jesus has an even more intense encounter with the Pharisees and the scribes. They have demanded to know why Jesus and his disciples are eating their food with unwashed hands. So they're not following the human customs and traditions that they had come up with. And Jesus essentially challenges the pride of their hearts. They clearly think they are better than him because of external things that they do to obey human commands, but they don't recognize the rebellion of their own hearts against God. It's almost like they think they are so worthy, they don't even need God. With this backdrop, Jesus moves into Gentile territory, the region of Tyre and Sidon, and is approached by this woman who is the exact opposite of the Pharisees. She's a woman, she's a Gentile, and she is most importantly, she's very humble. Now, can I really say that she's humble when she speaks back to Jesus and extends his parable? Yes, of course. Humility is not about being a doormat and not asking for things, but about asking with the knowledge that you don't deserve what you're asking for, but you know that the one who is giving is both powerful and merciful, so will do what is right. See, that's why Jesus responds to her statement, "Sir, even the dogs eat the table. Even the dogs under the table eat the children's crumbs." And Jesus' response is, "For saying that, you may go. The demon has left your daughter." In other miracle accounts, we see Jesus say, "Your faith has saved you." That is your trust in his power. But here is the flip side. It is her trust in his mercy with her own recognition of her unworthiness of that. Her trust that his abundant provision will have even enough crumbs left over to provide for her, even though she considers herself unworthy and the Gentile term of dog. And that's what Cranmer recognizes in the next line of the prayer of humble access. I'm going to give this another go. There we are. So the next line, "But you are the same Lord, whose nature is always to show mercy." Whenever we speak, up there, it moves around on me. Whenever we speak of human unworthiness, we immediately speak the word of grace. That is, our Lord's nature is always to have mercy. The Christian gospel holds these two realities together. We are unworthy and God is merciful. These two sides are immediately paired together as two sides of the same coin. See, if we stop and just recognize our own unworthiness, we'd get depressed, wouldn't we? It can make us feel really bad about ourselves when we stop and think of the ways we fail in life. Both the things inside our control, like saying mean things about other people behind their back, or things outside our control, like mental illness, such as this woman's daughter possibly had. We can read all the Facebook memes we like about how we're not really as bad as we think we are, how we're God's princes and princesses, and that we're really good people. But these can leave us often feeling even more depressed as they rely on me believing something about myself that I don't always feel. But when we turn from acknowledging our own unworthiness to look at the all-powerful Jesus, we recognize that he is the same Lord whose nature is always to have mercy. Then we can have comfort and assurance, can't we? We can know that he's pouring out his blessing on me is not because I think I deserve it today, but because he is always merciful. Not that today I'm good enough and tomorrow I don't feel it, but every day he is merciful. And the alternative to this would be that we do presume to come to his table, that we come into fellowship with Jesus, trusting in our own righteousness. Because of Jesus' kindness, compassion, and mercy, how easy is it for us to presume that we are worthy to demand things of him? But as we've heard, if you strut into Buckingham Palace and demand an audience with the Queen, you'll be thrown out. If you strut into God's presence and tell him how worthy you are, you will miss out on his mercy and grace because you are essentially telling him, I don't need you. This woman acknowledged her genuine unworthiness before Jesus, but showed that she was aware of just how abundant his mercy and blessing are, and knows that even some of that can fall on her. Our problem is that we're offended by the address to the woman. But as Cranmer recognised, Jesus was stating a reality that she was unworthy, and she was accepting that reality, repeating that she knows she's unworthy, just as we are. How great is it that because of the Lord's mercy, this woman's daughter was healed, and equally that we who are also unworthy get to gather around the Lord's table and enjoy in his abundant blessings. Let me finish by praying the full prayer of humble access for us. Yeah. So I'll finish with this prayer. We do not presume to come to your table, merciful Lord, trusting in our own righteousness, but in your manifold and great mercies. We are not worthy so much as to gather up the crumbs under your table, but you are the same Lord whose nature is always to have mercy. Grant us, therefore, gracious Lord, so to eat the flesh of your dear Son, Jesus Christ, and to drink his blood, that we may evermore dwell in him and he in us. Amen.